Howdy folks, welcome to Post to Post. If you are new, my name is Neil, and today we're talking about the Chicago Blackhawks and the controversy around the logo. Now you might be asking, if you're watching this right as I'm releasing it, you might be asking yourself, why are you releasing this now? This hasn't been in news in at least a year and a half. Why now, Neil? Well, that's a really good question. And it comes from the video yesterday because we were looking at new NHL logos, hand-drawn ones, and I made a comment about the one that was for the Chicago Blackhawks. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. But I made a poor statement, or I used words incorrectly based on my actual thoughts. So there was some confusion. But just in general, to answer the question of the title of this video, of the thumbnail, I think it's going to be, is the Blackhawks logo offensive? I think that's what I'm going to call this video. No, I personally... keyword personally, do not think that the Blackhawks logo is offensive, but I'm not saying that it's not offensive to some people. There's a lot to dive in here. I'm going to explain all of that and what I mean by that. We're going to go through the entire Chicago Blackhawks logo history. We're going to go through some statements from the team itself. We're going to go through some comments from associations, revolving around Native Americans, and some comments from sports publishers and broadcasters as well. So there's really a lot to dive in here. And this might be a little bit of a long video, but I want you to bear with me. But I want to start off by showing, I'm just going to bring it up here on my screen. I want to start off by showing the drawing from yesterday's video. So in that video, I basically said that if the Chicago Blackhawks were going to redesign the logo or come out with something new, because that was really the intention of the entire video, is to come out with new concepts or new logos for each team, I don't think they would go with something that was offensive like this. What I meant to say, or what I should have said, I don't think the Chicago Blackhawks would go with something like this that would be offensive to some people. It made it look like I was offended by this logo or the one that currently exists. That's not the case. I am not offended by the Chicago Blackhawks logo. I am not Native American. I have no right to be offended by the logo because I'm not Native American. I'm not going to be offended on the behalf of someone else. That concept in general, not this logo concept, but that concept of being offended on the behalf of other people drives me nuts. I hate that. So no, I am not offended by this logo, but I'm not saying that some people shouldn't be. If there are Native Americans who are offended by this logo, I don't look at them and think, oh, that person's stupid. Why would they be offended by this? There's a lot of logic to why they would be offended by this. So I'm not speaking for Native Americans. I'm speaking for me as a white man. I am not offended by this logo, but I 100% could see how a Native American or someone could be offended by this logo. That's my opinion. I really don't care how you feel about the logo. I barely care about the logo. If they change the logo, I really wouldn't care. I like the team name, but if they had to change the logo, whatever. I really don't care. Let's get into some comments that people left, actually. So someone said, I hear the word offensive. Please do your research, actually. Now, I did correspond with this person a little bit after this comment, and it was a very nice back and forth. And that really made me realize that, I kind of said that wrong in the video. So I went back and I watched it. I'm like, okay, yeah, that was a poor choice of words by me. So I'm glad that person I'm glad all these people said something because it really, it misinterpreted my view in the video, regardless of what side you're on. And then someone else said, literally no one is saying that the Blackhawks logo is offensive, which is actually extremely untrue, as we're about to see later in this video. I don't see Irish people up in arms over Lucky Charms or Boston Celtics, which is true. I know you don't think that, but yeah, some snowflakes on Twitter, Reddit are actually controlling that narrative. Just sad. With their way, there'll be no representation. That's untrue. It's not just trolls on Twitter or snowflakes on Reddit or whatever. That's not actually true. There's actually a lot of associations and groups that are 100% behind changing the logo. It's not just from random people online. This has been an issue for, I think, around 2006 is when it started to kind of come to light and people started to talk about this. So no, it predates Reddit and it predates Twitter, so no, it's not just random people. Someone else said, ha, please, enough, stop trying to change the Blackhawks logo a social justice warrior. I understand why they may say this, poorly worded and immature for the record, but I understand why they're saying this. It made me look like the social justice warrior because of my poor words in that previous video. And then the last comment was, the Blackhawks logo is not offensive. I agree, but that could have been worded, the Blackhawks logo is not offensive to me. It doesn't mean that your opinion is right or my opinion is right. There is no right opinion. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinion, especially Native Americans. So now I want to move on to the actual guts of this and look at the Blackhawks logo history. And there's a bit of discrepancy for some of the years, but let's start off at the beginning, 1926. So this is the logo. Actually, It's kind of basically the logo that's on this Winter Classic jersey. 1926 to 1935 is what they used here. And then from 1935 to 1937, they used this, but there's also a different interpretation of the logo, which you'll see here. So there's a bit of change in color with the hair specifically, and the feathers as well. And then from 1937 to 1941, there's a rendition and then a different rendition. So I don't know exactly which one is correct, but just so you know, there's some variations of logos between 1935 and 1941-ish. And then from 1941 to 1955, we have the logo that's essentially on the reverse retro. And then from 1955 to 1957, we've got a variation of that. The face has been adjusted to be a little bit more detailed and stuff, the feathers as well. And then from 1957 to 1965, we have another updated version, a little bit more detail in the feathers and some on the face as well, I think. And then from 1965 to 1989, there really wasn't too much of a change in that entire span. And then in 1989 to 1996, they cleaned up the logo a little bit, made the lines a little bit more defined, made the colors a little bit more saturated. And then from 1996 to 1999, they made a slight adjustment in some shading and some hues. And then from 1999 till today is basically the logo that we know. So from, 1965 to now, essentially the logo's not really changed that much. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of some of the things that were said by the team and by others, I want to bring up the concept that was created by Orion Taylor, who made all the reverse retro predictions concepts for me. This is the jersey, this is the logo that I included in my prediction video for the reverse retros 2 weeks prior to that video yesterday. So people calling me social justice warrior or saying that I'm offended by the logo. 2 weeks ago, I put this on a jersey, so clearly I'm not offended. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so let's start off with some information here. So in 2005, the American Psychological Association, the APA, issued a resolution recommending the immediate retirement of American Indian mascots, symbols, images, and personalities by schools, colleges, universities, athletic teams, and organizations due to the harm done by creating a hostile environment, the negative impact on self-esteem of American Indian children, and the discrimination that may violate civil rights. Since June 2020, headdresses have been banned from being worn at Blackhawks home games. The National Congress of American Indians also opposes the Blackhawks logo, as it does all Native American mascots. In 2010, sports columnist David Cox called the franchise to retire the racially insensitive logo, saying that clearly no right-thinking person would name a team after an Aboriginal figure these days any more than they would use Muslims or Africans or Chinese or any ethnic group to depict a specific sporting notion. In 2015, Mark Chipman, chairman of the True North Sports and Entertainment, the owner of the NHL's Winnipeg Jets, decided to ban fake native headdresses at games after meeting with First Nations leaders. The meeting took place in response to a complaint by a Jets fan after seeing a Blackhawks fan in a headdress. So just some proof out there that it's not just some random snowflakes and people. There are associations behind this, or even well-known sports columnists behind this as well. Now, a bit of the other side of the story. The National Hockey League NHL Chicago Blackhawks was named in honor of the U.S. 86th Infantry Division, which was nicknamed the Blackhawk Division, after Blackhawk, a Native American chief, the team's founder, Frederick McLaughlin, having served in that division. Blackhawk was a leader of the Sac, I believe it's pronounced, who sided with the British in the War of 1812, and later attempted to regain tribal land in the Black Hawk War of 1832. Opponents of the logo say that adoption of his name for the 86th Infantry, the hockey team, and later the Black Hawk helicopter, are examples of designing certain Native Americans as worthy adversaries. The Blackhawks have worked with the American Indian Center, AIC, to help inform their community and fan base by sharing Native American culture and history. Scott Sipolt, executive counsel for the American Indian Center, weighed in on the logo and name controversy by stating, "There is a consensus among us that there is a huge distinction between sports teams called the Redskins depicting Native people as red, screaming, incoherent savages, and a group like the Blackhawks honoring Blackhawk, a true Illinois historical figure." Back to the other side a little bit. In 2019, the American Indian Center of Chicago ended all ties to the Chicago Blackhawks Foundation, stating they will no longer affiliate with organizations that perpetuate stereotypes through the use of Indian mascots. The AIC noted in its statement that they previously held a relationship with the Chicago Blackhawks Foundation, and with the intention of educating the general public about American Indians and the use of logos and mascots. The AIC, along with members of the community, have since decided to end this relationship and stated that going forward, AIC will have no professional ties with the Blackhawks or any organization that perpetuates harmful stereotypes. After the Washington Redskins announced that they would be changing their name in July 2020, the Blackhawks confirmed that they would continue to use their team name. However, the team did agree to ban Native American headdresses at home games held in the United Center in recognition of being sacred symbols. Before the ban had been enacted, there had been, in fact, incidents where some Blackhawks fans wore headdresses. After the Cleveland Indians announced in December 2020 that the team would change their name after the 2021 season, new CEO Danny Wirtz reiterated that the Blackhawks would not change. The Chi Nations Youth Council, CNYC, the indigenous youth organization in Chicago, said in 2020, the Chicago Blackhawks name and logo symbolizes a legacy of imperialism and genocide. As statues of invaders, slaveholders, and white supremacists fall across the nation, so too should the images and language of the savage and dead Indians. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up and showcase that, there's a lot of people on both sides with lots of opinions, Native Americans themselves, the Chicago Blackhawks. So I don't think, if you're on the side same side I'm on, where you are not offended by the logo, I don't think you have the right to tell Native Americans that they should not be offended or that the logo is not offensive, especially if you're white. Now, that's just my personal opinion. You do not have to agree with me. I'm not saying that you have to agree with me. You can have your own opinion. That's just how I see it. That's just how I view it. But I wanted to showcase the reverse retro jersey, actually. So this was the teaser that came out 2 days prior to the reverse retros actually being released. And this was very typical. This wasn't really that strange. They didn't show any of the logo, but for some of the other teams, they didn't show any of the logo either. I think it was Winnipeg that they had an almost identical teaser as this. However, what was different about when on the day that the jerseys actually released, Chicago was the only team that didn't show a good shot of their primary logo or the logo that was on front of the jersey. And that jersey is actually down there, just off to my side. And they got called out. They immediately got called out for it, and the image that they showed in the video was very sideways. You could barely see it, and any face-on shot in the video that they did have, there was the guy's arm in front of it moving, so you really couldn't see it. And everyone was like, well, what's going on? So that was posted at 11 a.m., okay, on November 16th or 17th or whatever it was, or 10th, November sometime 2020. And it took them until 1:27 p.m. I went back and I looked, okay? 1:27 p.m. to actually post a photo of what the logo looked like properly in good lighting, face on, essentially. And I think they did this because they were scared of the backlash. So the NHL neither embraces it or is like, the NHL's in like Switzerland. They're kind of right in the middle. And I think they wanted to play it safer during this release. And they got criticized for this. Like, there are many articles online criticizing the NHL, the Blackhawks, for their release of the reverse retro jersey. Either you want the logo on there or you don't. Pick a side, don't stay in the middle, is kind of what they were saying. So I just wanted to point that out there, that it's not just some random people on Twitter. Like, this goes up the chain pretty high, regardless of your view on it. The chain goes pretty high, and I personally don't think that they will change their logo. I don't think that they will change their name. If they change anything, they will change the logo. I don't think they're going to change the name. There's almost no way. But again, I must say, I can completely understand how it could be offensive. The logo specifically could be offensive to Native American people. If you are white and you are also offended by this logo, I'm still not saying you're wrong. I don't agree with you, but I'm still not saying you're wrong. I, as a white person, cannot be offended on the behalf of Native Americans. If there's a large group of Native Americans who want the logo changed, and it's really gaining a lot of steam, I'm personally okay with the logo changing. I'm not emotionally invested in the Chicago Blackhawks or that logo. I'm not being stubborn about it. I would embrace future concepts for different interpretations of the word Blackhawk or the meaning Blackhawk or whatever. And if the Blackhawks were going to redesign the logo, it would actually be really cool if they work with the indigenous people and the Native Americans to see what they would like if they wanted to be a part of the culture. What would they want to showcase? What would be respectful? And build that relationship with them. And if they didn't want the relationship and they had to completely reinterpret the word Blackhawk to something else, maybe they go with the helicopter or whatever. I'm okay with that. Like, I personally am not offended by it. And I don't want the logo to change, but I would be open if it had to change. that's really my view. Again, don't think I'm right or wrong. Just wanted to get the conversation out there, and also state or fix my statement from the previous video where it sounded like I was offended. For the record, I am not offended by the logo. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Obviously, a bit of a hot topic, a controversial topic, and regardless of your opinion, regardless of what side you're on, even if you're in the middle and kind of like me, like you just don't really care that much, just be respectful. Like, you don't have to be rude about it on either side. You can leave. The more respectful and well worded your comment is, or your opinion, the more validity that it has. If you're just spewing insults and words and whatever, it just makes you look immature, and it makes you look almost uneducated, and it removes the validity from your comment. So if you leave your opinion, do it respectfully. It just comes across better. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you're new to the channel and want to see more content like this, or maybe more so lighthearted content, it's very rare that I cover a controversial topic like this. If you want to see a little more lighthearted content, please hit the subscribe button down below if you're new. If you did like this video and you like these conversations, hit the like button. And otherwise, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Adios.